Robert Sudlow and Horus Eubank are really special. Robert Sudlow is a very well-known Midwestern artist. He was called the Monet of the Flint Hills and Kansas's Impressionist. Sudlow did not regard himself as an impressionist. The French Impressionists, who were working in Paris in the 1880s to 1920s or so, had a very specific theory of color and their approach to painting. They wanted to experiment with color theory and use really specific rules about light and color in their paintings. Now, Sudlow would use some of the techniques that they had, such as loose brush strokes, little blobs of color that would create a scene, but he was not using the same color theory, and he was not using the rules that they set up for their paintings. So he didn't regard himself as an impressionist, but I think you can see a lot of the influence of their work on his. The Topeka and Shawnee County Public Library owns about 36 works by artist Robert Sudlow. Most of those came from Horace Eubank's gift.
Horus Eubank was certainly a friend of the Topeka and Shawnee County Public Library. He was also a friend to many students. He taught for many years at Topeka West High School and was a public citizen just in virtually every sense of the word. But I think he had a special appreciation for the role that art plays in the educational process. I think that had a lot to do with his decision to become a friend of this library as a library donor.
We have mainly oils on canvas, so paintings. Then we also have quite a few nude study drawings and some prints, mainly lithographs, that Sudlow did with the Lawrence Lithography Workshop.
In the 1960s, Horace discovered that he liked Robert Sudlow's work. I think he saw some of his work on display at a local gallery and was very taken with it. And over the years, then he collected Robert Sudlow's work very systematically and very intentionally, to the point where ultimately he had a collection of over 30 paintings and drawings. It spanned Sudlow's career. When we honored Horace Eubank with an exhibit of his paintings here at the library, Robert Sudlow came over, and one of the things he said was that Horace not only had a good eye, he acquired much of my best stuff, I think was the way Robert Sudlow put it. So there was sort of a mutual admiration society that had grew up between these two.
This painting is from Horus Eubank's gift. It's called Bright Garden. As far as we know, this is a Kansas scene, but we also know that Sudlow would go to California often during the summers. He said that in Kansas, the green was too intense, as was the heat. He didn't really like going outside and painting when it was 110 degrees outside. I believe that Horace bought most of his pieces directly from Robert Sudlow. Since they were such close friends, Horace would just go down to Sudlow's studio and pick out something that he liked. Let's take a look at some of the things that Sudlow is less well known for. This is just pencil on foam core. Sudlow never really intended this to be a finished work, but he would do figure studies, as many artists do, just to keep his drawing and observation skills tight. This one, I think, is just an exceptionally nice figure study. He's got a wash of what is probably either an ink or a paint, maybe a watercolor. And then over that, once it's dried, he's gone back in with pencil.
Many places were courting Horace for his collection. I think he picked the library ultimately because he was at heart an educator, and he saw the library's educational role as being central to our mission. He appreciated the fact that the library not only had the gallery, but it had the ability to display art throughout the building. And in fact, many of his paintings are at this very time positioned around the library, and in some cases, such as my own office here, in offices where individuals can see and enjoy the work on a regular basis.
This is the wall outside the information desk at our red carpet services. When we put art out into the library, it's to share our collection. Since we have a public art collection, we want to keep at least some aspect of it available to the public. Carrie tells us that when her door is open, there are often people who will stop and look in and recognize this Robert Sudlow painting on her wall. This painting is called Stull. It's part of the Eubank collection. This one is, I believe, a fall scene, as indicated by the rust colors that Sudlow is using in the grasses. Also, you see some of the leaves in the trees turning. I really am drawn to this painting because of that sense of space, because of the use of color, but also because of the things in the foreground here that let you know that there is both a foreground and a background. Things like a few brush strokes to indicate these grasses that have gone to seed.
Horus Eubank, I think, found Robert Sudlow's minimalist landscapes very evocative. He found them powerful. Sudlow had a way of capturing almost the feeling of the air in the scenes that he was painting. He acquired this ability to capture that sense not just of the land and the geography and the plants and animals and so forth, but even the feel of the air. And Horace was, I think, enchanted by that. And if you go through and look at the paintings that Horace collected, you will see different types of air captured by Sudlow, different moods, a sense of the place itself, of its deeper roots, almost a spiritual quality that Sudlow managed to achieve with his art and which Horace valued. There was a feeling of confidence that if his collection ended up with the library, it would be used in an ongoing educational context. It would be well preserved and well cared for. This library conveyed to him a strong sense of stewardship, and I think that was probably at the heart of his decision to place this collection in our keeping.
When Horace made the decision to make his gift of his Robert Sudlow collection to the library, that left a great resource for us here in Topeka, and I think it's also a great way to commemorate that friendship.